I've never I've never seen anything quite like that before.
Me either.
I've seen something a little similar, but not to that level. I think that it's fair to say that even having watched and dealt with Miss Love for this long, some of us may have been uncomfortable. I was not uncomfortable with it.
I got to give a big shout out to Inside the Law. He has an amazing channel over there where he really breaks down from a legal and lawyer's perspective some of the things that are going in the YSL trial and how we can look at what's happening not only as a juror or from a layman's perspective, but also doing a good job of explaining everything that's happening and what we can look out for to prepare if you ever have to, God forbid, be in the system. But y'all give a big round of applause to Phil Holloway. He is the creator and the host over on Inside the Law. I will be linking I will be linking this video in the description, as well as a place to where you all can go subscribe to his YouTube channel. So he had Doug Weinstein on his YouTube channel a few days ago, and he did a great job of kind of going through some of the things that happened in court. And Doug Weinstein gives some insight and a little bit more explanation to some of the things that we saw in real time, whether that be, Miss Love getting cooked by Judge Whitaker, or we had Mr. Adams complaining about what's going on with Gaither and how she was conducting herself on the stand. So I'm not going to play the full interview because I really want y'all to go over to Inside the Law and support them over there. So again, the link to this full interview will be in the description, but there's actually 3 spots in this interview I want to point out and see what y'all think about. So let's start out with this section here. Mr. Weinstein is going to talk about how he sees this case going forward and what's happening in the case currently. Here we go.
Here, watch this.
A mistrial is appropriate, and I'm asking.
I can't figure out what it is. If it's disingenuous, if it is that, I don't want to malign the prosecutor standing in front of me right now, so I'm not going to say the
Honorable Weinstein, yes,
could be, but it is baffling to me that somebody with the number of years of experience that you have, time after time after time, continues to seemingly purposefully hide the ball to the extent you possibly can for as long as you possibly can. And I really don't want to believe that it is purposeful. But honestly, after a certain number of times, you start to wonder how it could be anything but that, unless it is just that you are so unorganized that you are throwing this case together as you try it.
And we got to see this in real time last Monday. And most of us could not believe Judge Whitaker went at Miss Love like this. And even from the beginning of the day, we remember Judge Whitaker was going at Miss Love, telling her to get it together. She was asking questions. Judge Whitaker said, no, you can't ask that question, move on. So I don't know what happened last Monday, but Judge Whitaker was on one. It'll be interesting to see how she acts tomorrow. But let's see what Mr. Weinstein's had to say about that.
And I am sorry to say that, but
Jeez.
This case is being made much more difficult for everybody because of the haphazard way in which it is being presented.
Jeez.
I'm going to take a recess for a few minutes.
And she rage quit too.
I'll have a ruling when I get back.
Wow.
Every time it looks like Judge Whitaker is just completely fed up. I mean, it's like her bark is way worse than her bite because she doesn't ever really do much about it. But look, that's just my observation. Doug, you were in the courtroom this week when that happened. Can you describe what the feeling in that courtroom was like? It must have been something surreal.
I'm sorry, Phil. I was distracted by something when you were playing some kind of clip just now. Maybe you need to play that clip again.
Doug, why is he taking shots at Judge Whitaker? Because y'all know on Monday and throughout this past week, she was clearly distracted during the trial. I think she was playing Candy Crush. I don't know what y'all think.
Okay. So what was the feeling in the courtroom?
It's your favorite
I've
clip.
I've never I've never seen anything quite like that before.
Me either.
I've seen something a little similar, but not to that level. I think that it's fair to say that even having watched and dealt with Miss Love for this long, some of us may have been uncomfortable. I was not uncomfortable with it. I was, and you know,
Happy.
look, seriously, you
Say
never want to
happy.
see a fellow member of the bar, um, dressed down like that.
Come on, Doug Weinstein. I get lawyers having respect for each other. And, personally, I don't have any issues against Miss Love. I've met her in person. At the time I met her, she was doing a great job with with everything that we were working on at the time. So I don't have an issue with her personally. When it comes to this trial specifically, though, I mean, let's just be real. She gets everything that she deserves at this point. She's had chance after chance, time after time. You heard Brian Steele filed motions to get them removed. Westmoreland, Keith Adams, all saying, hey, Judge, Miss Love has been doing this throughout the entire trial. I mean, respect is fine, but sometimes you just got to go.
Bar, dressed down like that. It's in general. It tends to be very uncomfortable. It was not uncomfortable for me because I had been waiting for a judge to say that to Miss Love for close to 2 years. Glanville lost his temper at times, but it wasn't the same type of a coherent dressing down that was specific to the actions that Miss Love had done, as Judge Whitaker did on that day. And I do think, while we didn't get the mistrial we asked for, and that I think we probably deserved, and have deserved on multiple occasions, it did, at least in the very short term, marginally change the behavior of Miss Love a little bit. But I don't, as I said on Twitter earlier today, we have been watching Miss Love for almost 2 years. So we're at the level that we're at, and everyone watching is at the level that they're at. Judge Whitaker only came in, in July, I guess, at some point. So she's only had to watch a few months of it, and we see where she's at now. I don't know that Miss Love is going to be able to change her behavior to any degree. And I think Judge Whitaker is just over it. And I know everyone watching wants Judge Whitaker to just take off Miss Love's head right now, call a mistrial with prejudice, and send us all home. And I would love that too.
I'll let him finish.
All I'm asking is that, folks, the groundwork is laid. Judge Whitaker sees what's going on. I think that the tiger can change its stripes, and we're going to get there.
Man, if the case for mistrial were a house and the foundation was everything building up to this point, I mean, the foundation of this house would be able to withstand any hurricane that's coming through here, because we've had so many times where Miss Love has not done her job, not done what she's supposed to do. And we even see, Doug Weinstein's going to mention this later, we even see with a lot of her body language as she's sitting right next to the jury, y'all see her leaning back in her chair, making faces, rolling her eyes, being unprofessional. I mean, and that's not even counting the 2 ex parte meetings that took place before Judge Whitaker even got there, and Miss Love's part in those. So I get Doug being patient, and he knows and understands the process more than I do, and maybe a lot of us do. But at this point, what else has Judge Whitaker needed? We've seen evidence after evidence, time after time, motion after motion. We're up to 47, I believe, 47 motions for mistrial at this point. I mean, come on, man.
All right. So Doug is optimistic that that we're making steps in the right direction.
I don't know.
Rachel,
Y'all let me know what
I
you
know
think.
that you probably have this video just playing on all the screens in your life all the time. Just
shout out to Rachel.
Just on replay, because I know that it warms your heart to see that. So do you think we're headed towards eventually a mistrial, Rachel?
I think we're headed towards a mistrial. And I also agree that Judge Whitaker is doing her best with the situation to try to remain fair and impartial, while also, you know, she laid into Miss Love in ways I've never seen a judge lay into her. It felt good. It felt validating. And it was just the truth. I mean, what's interesting is as a criminal defense attorney, I mean, I feel I've never been talked to that way by a judge. However, I feel like judges are very comfortable talking to defense attorneys that way more often than they are prosecutors. So she even kind of apologizes to Miss Love. I know that they were colleagues in the same office. They both worked for the Fulton DA's office under Paul Howard.
Interesting.
So they've known each other quite some time. And from one former prosecutor to a current prosecutor, yeah, I mean, that should feel like crap to Adriane. I don't think that she really cares what anybody thinks about her. I mean, she really doesn't seem to have any shame whatsoever. But no, it felt good. Do I think there's going to be a mistrial? No, I do think that Judge Whitaker is expecting and believes that the jurors, I can't see the jurors. So when I come in that courtroom, I don't see the jurors, but I have to believe that she is watching the jurors and sees their disgust in Miss Love. I'm sure we'll get to Detective or whatever, Sergeant Gaither later, but you know, some of the things that have been brought to the court's attention regarding just how unprofessional Adriane and Sergeant Gaither have been. I mean, she basically says, let them be that way in front of the jury and let the jury handle it. As Phil said, I'm a little bit uncomfortable, you know, relying on the jury to get it right. And so I'm kind of like, you know, it's got to be a little bit harder hitting than that. But I do think that the foundation is being laid, that this bad faith that will not change from Adriane. She can pretend to be nice for a half a day and then the mask slips again. So as soon as that happens, you know, the judge has laid the foundation on the record to say how many more times can this happen if it's not bad faith. And so we still have a long way to go.
Yeah.
Man, and that's tough to hear, Rachel. And a lot of y'all don't know Rachel Kaufman. She is an attorney right here in Fulton County, and she actually has several cases that she's working on that are involving some of the other attorneys who are in the YSL trial. But to hear her say we have a long way to go, it's tough. Because again, we're looking at it as non-lawyers, as people who are just studying and trying to understand the law. And from what we've seen, like a lot of the things that the jury's being told to disregard, whether that's something Miss Love said, a question that she asked, it's going to be hard for them not to be tainted in certain ways, and especially against the defense and against a lot of the defendants. So I don't know. Y'all will have to let me know what you think. I asked a poll in the chat if y'all think Judge Whitaker is going to grant a mistrial. I'm not as confident as Doug Weinstein. It sounds like Rachel as well is a little bit like, we got a long way to go, but we'll see. Y'all have to let me know.